talk about the single leg, straight leg deadlift, most commonly referred to as the SLDL. It is a unilateral, aka single leg exercise, primarily targeting the hamstrings and the glutes. I'm going to show you different variations you can do depending on your skill level, as well as show you how you can continue to strengthen this movement pattern. One of the most common variations of the single leg deadlift is using one dumbbell, like so. You hold it in one hand, that same side leg is going to extend behind you as you hinge forward. Let's consider this for today, our baseline movement. So I'm going to show you modifications for that, especially if you are a beginner or if you are working around some sort of injury or limitation, and then I will show you ways to progress from that baseline movement. Let's go over the instructions for the basic movement in the first place and common cues. So you're starting with feet square to your hips. You're going to bend your lifted leg just to take it out of the equation, because we're not trying to shoot it up as high as we can. Instead, we're focusing on the hip hinge. So the leg is bent to get it out of the way. You can put your hands on your hips. You can hold something for balance or for more support. And then you are pressing your hips straight back behind you, keeping hips and shoulders square towards the ground, soft bend in the knee, and return to stand. Again, press the hips straight back, everything square to the floor, so we're not going to open, and stand. So if you are struggling with the hip hinge motion in the first place, grab a broom or something similar. You're going to place one hand right at the bottom of your skull, top of your neck, one hand right at the top of your hips, bottom of your low back. You want to maintain contact. From there, press your hips back, maintaining that contact with this handle in both those spots. When you feel comfortable enough with that, with both legs down, then you can start to lift one leg behind you in the single leg pattern. Again, maintaining contact with your handle. When that feels comfortable, we can progress back to the body weight single leg deadlift. Okay, so if you are somewhere between learning the hip hinge and using weight in your single leg deadlift, then your options are, like we talked about earlier, using something for support as you hinge, gradually working towards less and less support until you can eventually do just a straight body weight single leg deadlift, extending arms forward, or you might extend a little out to the side for some balance, but as always focusing on the hinge and the standing leg and the hip. From there, once you're comfortable with that, you're adding weight. You can start with weight in both hands, which will give you more stability and more balance, keeping the weight light, gradually working up to heavier weight. Eventually you would go to the single side, as we saw at the beginning of the video, single side deadlift, arm up to your side for balance, or hand on your hip. And finally we will go to pulling from the floor. So when it comes to pulling from the floor, you can use something like a block or a stack of books to put your weight on. I'm going to use a kettlebell. If you have a dumbbell, you can simply turn it on its end like so. So with our kettlebell on our block, our standing leg is going to go up next to the block so that our opposite arm can reach down and grab the weight, big drive through the hips as we stand. Come to the top of the movement, hinge the hips back to set the weight on the block. Holding up, hinging back. So I am setting the weight fully on the block. I'm not losing any tension, but I am letting it fully rest on the ground so I can get the full deadlift pull up to the top. I would say that is your highest progression. So you'll continue to play around with those different variations, increasing your weight, increasing your reps, increasing your set, knowing that some days aren't going to go as well as other days, and that is normal, and that is okay. So that is your single leg deadlift.